मुनिजन वंदित गंगाधरा मुनिजन वंदित गंगाधरा मुनिजन वंदित गंगाधरा जय राधा जय माधवा पाहि 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 मंगल चरणा कलिमल दहना मंगल चरणा कलिमल दहना मंगल चरणा कलिमल दहना मंगल चरणा कलिमल दहना नारायण केशवा हरि नारायण केशवा हरि नारायण केशवा हरि नारायण केशवा जय राधा जय माधवा पाहि 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 भव भय हरणा वंदित चरणा भव भय हरणा वंदित चरणा जय राधा जय माधवा पाहि जय राधा जय माधवा पाहि मंगल चरणा कलिमल दहना चरणा केशवा हरि नारायण केशवा जय राधा जय माधवा पाहि जय राधा जय माधवा पाहि भव भय हरणा वंदित चरणा भव भय हरणा वंदित चरणा जय राधा जय माधवा पाहि 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 जय राधा जय माधवा
ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति 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 ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ओम शांति 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 श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। No, this music is going on. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grasitam Puranamunina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaadhyayinim Ambatvāmanusandadhāmi Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshinim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangha Padakrama Upanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita tadgatena manasa Pashyanti yoginaha Yasyantanna vidusura suraganaha Devaya tasmai namaha. We are in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna is describing a yogi or a wise person who is abiding in knowledge. In the verse 38, Lord Krishna said, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam samai pashyati. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra. One who sees me everywhere. Sarvatra sarvabhuteshu. One who sees me in all the beings. Sarvam samai pashyati. And sees all in me. Understand this. This is the verse 30th that I just read. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra, the one who sees me in all beings. Page 62, I think, the last verse. Sarvam chamai pashyati, and sees all beings in me. Tasyaham na pranashyami, I never get lost to him. Sachamena prasati, I'm never away from him. He is never away from me. So vision of the wise person. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra. Sarvatra sarveshu bhuteshu, one who sees me in all the beings. Now, it is very evident to us that all beings are different from each other or one another. Each one has a name, form, function, peculiarities, uniqueness. From one standpoint, no two things are identical. Because that is called creation, where it is a creation of diversity. Just as diverse ornaments are created from gold, that's called creation. One gold becoming many as diverse ornaments. One water becoming many waves, where each wave is different from the other. So what we perceive or experience is the universe of names and forms, things and beings, where on an apparent perception, superficial perception, everything looks different from everything else. And I am different from others, others are different from me, each one is different from the other, Jagat is different from Ishvara, everything is different. That is how one perceives. Usually that's how we live our life. Giving reality to this diversity, differences, duality, divisions that we experience or perceive. But here is a yogi, yomam pashyati sarvatra. In all these outwardly diverse looking entities, one who sees the same. In all outwardly diverse looking ornaments, one who sees one gold. In all various waves and bubbles and foam, one sees one water. Swami, these examples we have heard every day. Yeah, but see, the Vedantas give examples and get away with it. But how do you see the oneness in all of this? What is common between I and some other entity, or between human beings and animals and insects, even insects and rocks? Is there something the same in all of them? So that requires an extremely subtle perception where the mind is able to separate the diversity which belongs to the costume and the oneness that belongs to the actor wearing that costume. The way Vedanta explains the creation is Sukameta Bahusyam Prajayati. Upanishad says, in the beginning of creation, the Lord willed, sought, desired. Bahusya, may I become many. So really one cannot become many. In fact, Lord does not have the resources to become many. He is by himself. So even though Upanishad says the Lord desired to become many in the beginning of creation, all that Ishvara can do is appear as many. So when the Upanishad says, may I become many, the way we should understand is that Lord said, may I appear as many. How can one appear as many? That is his creative power, that's called Maya, creative power. Where one appears as many. Meaning that one has assumed these countless costumes of sentient, insentient beings. But then, the one wearing the costume is only one. That's a great magic, great creation. But outwardly things are so different from each other. Something is so beautiful, something is so ugly, something is so kind, something is so cruel. Something is moving, something is not moving. Something is helpful, something is hurtful. All these contrary and diverse things are there. It requires a great deal of objectivity or vairagya, or the knowledge as to what is an appearance and what is reality. So this is where the wise person sees all the outward manifestations of cruelty and kindness, of truths and false, all non-violence and all these are all these, this is what we find. This is called dvandva, the pairs of opposites. one who can see through this. The dvandva, pairs of opposite, cruelty, kindness, righteousness, unrighteousness, truth and false. A lot of debates are going on around the world, and in the US very much, right and wrong. That is there at some level. But here is the one that recognizes that this is a superficial level. At the surface it is so, not in the core, not in the very essence. Even though superficially these entities appear to be quite contrary to each other, quite opposed to each other, even being in conflict with each other. But one wave fights with another wave, one ornament is jealous of other ornament. So this is what we experience, everybody does. Who is a wise person? What does Vedanta teach? That do not simply conclude what you see on the surface. Do not conclude that the core or essence is, do not judge the essence or core or reality based on what you experience on the surface. That is Vedanta says, Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. Here the oneness, unity is Satyam. The diversity, the apparent is Mithya, I mean just an appearance. But that appearance is so effective, as though so real. Sometimes actors play the role so well. The audience starts crying, starts laughing, becomes identified with the actor, taking what the actor does as real. But then one who knows, sees that this is all acting. Behind the apparent crying, there is a fellow who is very comfortable. Behind the apparent begging, there is someone who is very wealthy. So this is called perceiving what is true in a facade of what is untrue. This is a secret that Vedanta teaches. That do not get deluded by what you see on the surface. Do not take that to be real. Swami is a very cruel person, very angry person, very quarrelsome person, compassionate person, kind person. This is all fine at some level. But in the core, there is goodness, love, beauty in everything. That is called Brahman. So Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram, that which is truth, auspicious, beautiful. The Lord has assumed all variety of costumes and functioning so effectively that we think that what is on the surface at the level of costume is the reality. And we live our life at that level. Vedanta says, recognize that this is not real. Even on the apparent superficial appearance of cruelty, can you see some kindness there? When there is a hatred for something, can you see also love for something else? There is. Love for the self makes me hateful to somebody else. So one who has such large-heartedness that he can see through this, he is not influenced by the superficial duality, conflict, diversity. Yomam Pashi Sarvatra, Lord Krishna says, this yogi, the wise person, sees me. Krishna, the beautiful, loving. In an angry person also, in a cruel person also, in a wise person also, otherwise person also, in a lion also, in a tiger also, in a deer also, in a rabbit also, in everyone. He sees that Ishvara playing this variety of roles through variety of costumes. Sarvam chamai pashyati also recognizes that this manyness doesn't make Ishvara many. He's not only one, he's myself. First equation is, what is Ishvara? The second order of equation is that Ishvara is myself, meaning what is his self? Sarvam cha mai pashyati. That is the complete wisdom. That what is Ishvara? Kind, beautiful, compassionate, loving, transcending all dualities. And secondly, that Ishvara is myself. Tasyaham na pranashyami sachame na pranashyati. Lord Krishna says, I never become remote to him, meaning that he's never outside of his perception. I'm always with him. Tasyaham na pranashyami. Nash adarshane. In Sanskrit, I don't get this. Meaning, nash means adarshanam. It never happens that I am ever away from his perception. His awareness. He's always aware of me. I never move away from his awareness. Sachamena pranashyati, nor does he ever outside of my awareness. He's always aware of me. I'm always aware of him. That's a way of saying. If I'm aware of something all the time, that means that must be only one. This equation. That I never go out of his sight. And he never goes out of my sight. That's the way of saying that we are one. If there are two, then sometime they will go out of your sight. And when you fall asleep, nothing is in your sight, is it not so? When I fall asleep, I am not aware of anything. Lord Krishna says, I'm never away from his awareness. Meaning that when he's awake, he's dreaming, sleeping, under all conditions, he's always aware of me. How can that be? Only when he knows me as his own self. The Swami, in deep sleep, you are not aware of anything. You are. In deep sleep, I am not aware of anything other than myself, but I am aware of myself. Swami, if I was aware of myself, how come I did not know that I was sleeping? But that is a function of mind. That kind of awareness is a function of mind. The mind is sleeping, therefore, that kind of awareness of something is not there. Awareness is there. Awareness is always there. The mind creates awareness of ghatapata, of something. That mind not being there, I am not aware of something, but aware I am. Awareness is Ishvara. Tasyaham na pranashyami sachamena pranashyati. I never go out of his sight, he never goes out of my sight. Meaning we are one. What more noble knowledge, perception, awareness can there be? A bhakta always wants to be with Ishvara, his beloved. But as long as if that bhakta devotee also sees the beloved Lord as separate from him, then there will be time when he is not aware of him. Then Lord gives him darshana, then it's all, when he is not given darshana, he is away. So in reference to that, this is said. Even if a devotee, a great, he loves Ishvara, loves Bhagavan, but he also, if he sees Bhagavan as separate from him, then it cannot be that he is always aware of the Lord. When he knows the Lord is himself, awareness of self is awareness of Ishvara. Tasya na pranashyami sachave pranashyati. Imagine a wise person always aware of Ishvara, always aware of Brahman, that as self, always reveling in wholeness, completeness, in happiness, ananda. Then, about this bhakta or the yogi, Lord Krishna makes another bold statement in the verse 31. No, 32, sorry. Verse 31. Sarvabhutasthitamevam bhajati ekatvamasthitah. Sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mahi vartate. On the page 63, first verse. Sarvabhuta sthitam mam, I who obtains in all the beings. Now even Ishvara also can obtain in all the beings only if he is the self of the beings. He is the most common denominator. In all the ornaments, gold is the most common denominator. That is called most common denominator that obtains in everything. So when Ishvara obtains in everything, that is the most common denominator. He pervades everything, sustains everything, illumines everything. Bhajati ekatvamasthitaha. Just established in this unity of the knowledge of unity. Unity everybody has. We are the same as that wise person, not different in reality. The only difference is that we may not know that oneness, and he knows. Ekatvam asthitaha, established in this unity with Ishvara is everything. When Lord Krishna says that he does not see the difference between himself and Ishvara, he sees no difference with himself in anything. Can you imagine? That I see myself. No, I am always an object of my love, unconditional love. Seeing that the wise person sees himself in everyone, that means that he has unconditional love for everything. That's not the only thing. We love things all right, as long as they are conducive. I love somebody. As long as they are helpful, favorable, they help me, serve me, flatter me, so long they remain object of love. If one starts hating me, my love disappears, isn't it so? Our love is conditional love. For a wise person, becomes unconditional love. The only entity that I love unconditional means without any expectation. At all times, all places, and all conditions, one entity I love, and that is myself. That love, unconditional love, if then it becomes also unconditional love for everything. That is the wisdom. That's what Lord Krishna is talking about. We are not unfamiliar with unconditional love. We are familiar. The love that we have towards our own self is unconditional. Swami used to say, this man when he wakes up, the first thing he does is looks at himself in the mirror. Even though nobody else wants to look at him, first thing he looks at the mirror. While brushing the teeth, who wants, While doing everything, while brushing the teeth, shaving this, all looks at the mirror. And then after shower and so forth, suddenly looks at the mirror. Not only that, but then whenever an opportunity comes, any reflecting surface is there, it may be the hood of a car, then also it takes an opportunity to look there. These ladies were walking with the Fifth Avenue in New York City, you can see them in the lunch hour. Where all huge stores are there with those huge glass windows. They reflect your face. They look at this. So, this is love for body. Understand? When one loves the body so much, then what to talk of love for the self, that we have unconditional love for the self. If there is some injury in my body and suppose some part, some wound is there and nobody wants to come, I don't hate it. Unconditional love. So we know what unconditional love is. Meaning at all times, at all places, at all circumstances. For the wise person, what happens is that becomes the love for everything, everybody and everything. Just I love myself even when I'm angry, love myself when I'm greedy, love myself when I'm loving, love myself, whatever I am, I always love myself. Can you imagine someone loves everything, everybody, regardless of what they are? No demand as to what you should be for me to love you. Right now you can satisfy many conditions to become the object of my love. It's not easy. You fail to satisfy my demand and right away you are out of my radar, they say, out of my radar. The radar is so vast. Everybody is included. He is totally non-demanding. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. He partha when manogatan sarvan kaman prajahati. When all the desires, expectations, demands arising in the mind, all of them have disappeared. He is a totally non-demanding person. Which means totally accepting person. When can I not demand something? When I accept something. When you say that the wise person is totally non-demanding, that means he is totally accepting. Meaning what? Totally loves. So people may think that a Vedanta doesn't talk of love, it does. Although the word love may not be used in these verses. What these verses describe is not possible unless there is unconditional love. Sarvabhuta sthitam yomam bhajati ekatvamastita. Himself abiding in that oneness, he sees me as obtaining everyone. Meaning what you see is the non-duality between myself and himself. This is just the Anuvada, just reiteration what was said in the earlier verse. But then Lord Krishna made an important statement. Sarvatha, second line of verse 31 says, Sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. Sarvatha vartamanopi. However that person conducts himself, vartanam. However the person conducts himself or herself. Sayogi mai vartate. The yogi is always centered on me, he is never apart from me. Swamiji, what if that person is violent? Even then, sarvatha vartamanopi. Meaning that whatever the vartanam or the behavior or the conduct of that person appears to us, Sayogi mai vartate, he is always centered on me, focused on me, he is never away from me, he is identical to me. Meaning that yogi is not to be judged by the vartanam. words, does it mean that Lord Krishna gives license to this yogi? Sarvatha Vartamanopi. Vartamanopi, behaving Sarvatha in any way. And all kinds of wise people, you see the Puranas, all kinds of wise people will be. Krishna Hogi, Shuko Yogi, Drupo Janakaraghavau. Krishna Bhogi, 16,108 consorts. Shuko Yogi, just the opposite. Avadut. Drupo Janakaraghavau, King Janaka, Lord Rama are kings. Karmanishtaha, Vasishtadhyaha, and Vasishtha, other sages are all the time seen performing various karma rituals. Outwardly, their vartanam, their conduct is quite different from each other. Sarvete jnaninas samaha, but as far as the wisdom is concerned, they all are similar, or equal. So Vedanta says that a wise person cannot be judged by what he or she does. He may be, living in a cave, apparently doing nothing. He may be a very active person, wandering in the whole world and doing a lot of action activities. In between anything. Sayogi mai vartate. More than this, what Lord Krishna also means that even though outwardly you find this person not living up to the norms of the society. We expect people to live up to the norms of the society. In case you find this wise person outwardly violating the norms, then also you should know that he is never away from me. What is so unique about this yogi? The Lord Krishna gives him this kind of a certificate or license that regardless of what he does, he is still abiding in me. What do you mean by abiding Ishvara? Now technically we all explain Ishvara Asti Bhadi Priyam Satchidananda. Well, what does it mean more practically? So verse 32, Lord Krishna explains very beautifully what is the vision of the wise person. The vartanam or the conduct is one thing and the jnanam, vision is another thing. Another thing is vision is vision at the level of his understanding. So there Lord Krishna said in verse 32, Atmopamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo matah. Now when Lord Krishna says, Yo mam pashyati, one who sees me in everything, that's a little too intimidating to us. What does it mean? So this wisdom on the part of the wise person of seeing the self in everyone and everyone in the self, that's called non-duality. As far as his conduct is concerned, his interaction with the world is concerned, how does he conduct himself? This is a very important verse in the Bhagavad Gita from which we can get a guidance of how we can also become a yogi like that. A very simple value is given here. Atmopamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna. Yaha sarvatra, hey Arjuna, yaha sarvatra samam pashyati. You have one who? Sarvatra, everywhere in all the beings. Samam pashyati. He looks upon all the beings as equal. In what way? Next line is Sukham. So, Atma Upamyena. Upama means a comparison. Atma Upamyena. That he himself becomes the standard of comparison of himself with others. That is, when I interact with you, how do I look at you? Here Lord Krishna says, Upama gives a comparison. Atma Upamyena, Sarvatra. I look upon others as I look at myself. Atma becomes Upama, the standard of comparison, the standard of judgment. Whenever we conduct ourselves, there is always a standard of judgment that we have. Is such and such, such and such. And then I interact or react. But here Lord Krishna says that the wise person, Atma Upamyena, he judges everybody else as he judges himself. Sukham va yadiva dukkham. See, this is a very simple rule that we can also apply in our life. Sukham va yadiva dukkham, Bhashyakara explains, Yatha mama sukham ishta. Happiness and unhappiness. Yatha mama sukham ishtam. Just as sukham, happiness, is desirable to me. Atma Upamyena, when I relate to you, how do I look at you? Or how do I recognize, how do I understand your feelings or sentiments? See, when we interact with others, we recognize their feelings and sentiments. That's what we should respond to. We should be sensitive to the feelings and sentiments and needs and requirements and rights of other people. Everybody has a feeling, everybody has a need, everybody has a requirement, everybody has a right. You know what my feelings are, what my needs are, what my rights are, what I want, what I demand. We are very much aware of all those things about ourselves. What my feelings are, what my sentiments are, what my rights are. Lord Krishna says that while asserting our rights, we should also be aware of and we should also take into account the feelings and sentiments and rights of others also. Yes, I have a right to be happy. My right. Each one of us looks upon that as our right. It is my right to be happy. What is happiness? What I define as happiness. That's the thing. Because everybody has a description of happiness. Although happiness is not a description of a situation, but we always equate happiness to something. I have the freedom to do what I want, that's what I call, that is my happiness. I am in control of the situation, that's my happiness. I do not let you do what you want to do, sometimes that is my happiness. Regardless of that, just as my happiness is dear to me, important to me, desirable to me. Sukha prapti, dukkha nivritti. Every creature always, sukha prapti, strives to attain happiness, dukkha nivritti, strives to get rid of unhappiness. Every creature, every living being. So just as I am always striving for sukha prapti, attaining happiness, dukkha nivritti, I want to get rid of unhappiness. That is a common motivating force, is it not so? In whatever we do, the primary motivation is sukha prapti, dukkha nivritti. Attainment of happiness and getting rid of unhappiness. Here Lord Krishna says, Atma upamyena, this yogi, in every interaction with others, brings to play his norm. What is his norm? That I should also look upon others as I look at myself. And therefore, at every moment, other person also wants to be happy and wants to get rid of unhappiness. Sukham va yadi va dukkham. Sukham, ishtam, desirable. That's what I want. Dukkham, anishtam, undesirable. That's what I want to get rid of. That's all we want all the time. Most amazing. Regardless of what we are doing, everybody seems to be doing different things. So somebody goes east to west, west to east, south, north, all kinds of activities are there. There is nothing common sometimes between various things that people do. But behind activities, there is one common thing. Sukha prapti, dukkha nivritti. Attainment of happiness, getting rid of unhappiness. But Swamiji, why does this person do? Why does he drink? Does he not know it will make... No, he thinks that time that will make him happy. At any time I do what I think will make me happy. Although somebody else may think it differently. And that is why people justify everything that they do. Anyway, but here the wise person is sensitive to this basic need of all living beings. That everyone strives to be happy, everyone loves to be happy, everyone dislikes to be unhappy. So then what is my role? Atma upamyena. Earlier, Lord Krishna said he sees the self everywhere. What is his Ishvara? What is his self? What is his I? For a wise person, this is very spontaneous. Because in his perception, the other person is I, therefore, he naturally treats the other person as he treats himself. That is the spontaneous thing. But now that gives the guidelines to other people. What should we do? Sayogi paramo mataha. This is looked up, this is considered as a paramo yogi, meaning a supreme yogi, exalted yogi. We also can become an exalted yogi without any samadhi. With all the practices Lord Krishna described earlier. And we describe later also of controlling mind, focusing the mind, and samadhi and absorption. All sorts of things are described. But here's a very simple rule. A yogi means one who abides in himself. You want samadhi? You want yoga? Self-abidance? Perfection? Just simple rule. Atma upamyena sarvatra samam pashyati. At every moment just be aware that I should treat the other person as I treat myself. Simple rule, is it not so? What's the big deal about it? Why can't we do that? I hate this person, Swami. I don't like him. I don't care for him. So already this kind of conclusions or judgments are there in me. For everything I have a judgment. I have an opinion for everything. I like it, don't like it. That may change. What I like today, I may not like tomorrow, and so on and so forth. But at any moment, all my vyavahara interaction is based on likes and dislikes. Meaning that they're all there inside. Whenever I'm about to do something, about to interact with somebody, then that is triggered. A person triggers, a situation triggers, what is already there. And so likes, dislikes will be triggered. That means that I may hate some person. The hatred may be triggered from past history, whatever experiences may have been there. I'm partial to one and cruel to another one. That's also very common. When I like something, I become partial to that and then cruel to someone else. This is how generally we conduct ourselves. And all of this is all cause of misery. This is what creates all the misery in our life. And we spread misery also with this kind of behavior. So reminding myself, Atma-upamyana, how would I like to be treated? Our Puja Swami used to talk about this common sense dharma. Mahabharata says more than once, do not do unto others what you do not want to be done to you. Atmana pratikulani paresham na samacharet. Atmana pratikulani. What is pratikulam? What is undesirable? What is unwanted by me? What I looked upon as opposed to me. So what? Paresham, what I do not want from others, I should not do unto others. And that only says one aspect of it. I should not do unto others what I do not want them to do to me. But we should add one. I should do to others what I want them to do to me also. So that is called Atma-upamyana. I put myself in a situation, put myself in the position of other person. I ask myself, if I was in that position, what kind of behavior or treatment would I have expected? I would want others to be kind to me. I don't want them to be cruel to me. I want them to help me, not hurt me. So this is where the two-step response in every situation can be brought about. What's the one-step response? That person is what the person is, and my feelings are aroused in there, and I behave. That person, just Swami, what to talk about that person? I think of it and something happens to me, let alone seeing that person. So there is one-step response. The person, the situation, whatever it is, triggers some reaction in me which we call attachment, like and dislike, kama, krodha, lobha, lust, anger, greed. Something is triggered. It's all there. That is one-step response. Anger arises, I behave angrily. Greed arises, I behave greed. But we can become a yogi simply by a two-step response. The second step is what? How would I have expected if I was in that position, how would I have expected me to behave? Second step. One step response, I just do what is triggered in me. It is what people usually do. But two-step response, if you want to become yogi, yogi means free, happy. That's what yogi is. So this is the key to happiness. Regardless of what the world says about happiness and all kinds of happiness workshop, but this is the key to happiness. Simple. Treat the other one as you would like to be treated. Place yourself in the position of the other. and ask, if I were in that position, how would I have liked to be treated? So, Swami is easy to say, difficult to do, that's right. But if I even try to do this, I am on my way of becoming Paramayogi without any samadhi. This is it, this is all that is required. And not only while I am behaving, interacting outwardly. Even when I am thinking about some person, inside also a lot of things happen to me. It's sort of a person just, triggers many emotions from me. I don't need to see the person. I think of a person, something happens. So we'll talk about that in the next verses. But anyway, right now, what I'm saying is that this is a simple Atma Upamyana. A two-step response. In saying that, I'm already covering what is going to say in the next verses also. But anyway, in the second step, I deliberately place myself in the position of the other and ask myself, how would I like to be treated? Attempt to do. Doing is maybe very difficult. Attempt to do. I have value at least. That is called respecting other person. What is respecting? I respect the person because he's well behaved, because he's well dressed, because he's scholarly, because this is why I respect. That we do. He's an important person, bring him, treat him specially, which is fine. But here if I respect, because the person is person, that's all. Not because he's so and so. That is my value. Whether a person is a king or a beggar, he is a friend or a foe. But Swami hates me regardless of what that person does. Because my happiness is derived from what I do, not what some other people do. They do what they want to do. And this is all easier said, by the way, but this is what we have to strive to do. To be happy. There is no other way of becoming happy, by the way. There is no other way of becoming happy than this. Atma upamena sarvatra samam pashyati yogi. This is how, by trying to treat other person as myself, ultimately I gain the knowledge that he and I are one. So the ultimate knowledge of oneness is put into practice in this way. So therefore, these Shastra scriptures teach us the values which are a base height of non-violence. The true non-violence will be when I see the other person as myself. Because I can never be violent to myself. Always kind to myself. Always forgiving myself. Always accommodating myself. If I try to give that much benefit to others, you don't need anything, just do that. You become Paramayogi. Ahimsaka ityartha. So according to Vashyakara, Lord Krishna describes a non-violent person. And so, one value of non-violence can lead us to the knowledge of non-duality. And for that matter, any value, ahamanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, all the values are all based on only oneness, non-duality. Amanitvam means one who is humble, humility. One adambhitvam who does not pose, does not pretend, who is transparent. So transfer Swami, that is the Swami, one Swami Akhananda used to say that even husband and wife are also don't think they're honest to each other, let alone anybody else. So the married to each other for so long, even they don't expect that this fellow is totally transparent to her and vice versa. I'm not saying you are not, but this is what it is. Transparency is very difficult. Anyway, as I said, all these values are based on the true nature of ourselves, and more we follow them, more true we are to ourselves. We cannot gain knowledge of self unless our life is based in tune with the self, in harmony with the self, is it not so? I cannot be all the time damaging myself and hope to know myself. When I damage you, I am damaging myself ultimately, because your self happens to be myself. So this is the origin of value called ahimsa, non-violence. That I am quite clear as to how I want to be treated by others. I don't want them to hurt me, don't want them to insult me, don't want them to deprive me of my rights and requirements. I want to be sensitive to my emotions and feelings. That's what I expect from others. So I don't even need to ask myself. I know what it is. I know what I expect. All that we need to do is to do to others what we expect from others. Isn't that a simple rule? So difficult. Sayogi Paramamata. He is the Parama Yogi, or the most exalted yogi. And thus, with that one section of the 6th chapter is concluded, and then next section begins with the question of Arjuna. We will continue that after a break for whatever. We come back at 11:30, please. We will continue our discussion.